All right, hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Survivalist Prepper Show. Tonight, we've got Titan Preparedness on with us. Titan has been watching our Survival Preppers, the Survival Preppers channel for a while. We've even had him on that show, and I figured it'd be kind of fun to get him on tonight and talk about some of the like community, prepping group, skills, knowledge. I mean, just a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll go through that. We'll answer everybody's questions as well. If you have any in the chat, I'll try to pay attention. Luckily, Titan's in there too, so maybe he can help pay attention as well, because I know I'm pretty bad at it. But as far as that's what we're going to talk about. And then, if we go down rabbit holes, we'll go down rabbit holes. If you guys have any questions that, you want us to talk about, just kind of have a good conversation about prepping in general. Before we get into the meat of the show tonight, just kind of explain to everybody what you're all about, what you're up to over on your channel. And I've got the link below in the description so they can find you over there. But yeah, just let everybody know what Titan Preparedness is all about.
Sure. So thanks for having me again. Like you said before, this is the second time that we've done a live stream together. So thanks for having me back. Titan Preparedness is about, I hate to say it this way, but common sense preparedness.
Yeah.
We don't focus on, building bunkers in the backyard, the doom and gloom, the end of the world is coming, which I mean, hey, in the situation we're in nowadays, it might be tomorrow. But, the things that happen like hurricane preparedness, tornado preparedness, how to be ready when life just smacks you in the face. Because there's no warning, there's no advanced understanding that tornadoes coming tomorrow. So being ready for that, and especially coming from a family approach. Myself and all the gentlemen that join me on the channel every once in a while, we all have families. We all have at least 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, some of us. And so how can we be better prepared and still be parents and still work full-time jobs and still, X, Y, and Z, life gets in the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, a common sense approach and no fear porn. I'm not a fan of that. I watch channels that are, and hey, more power to them if they are. But we just kind of like common sense, I guess. How to be prepared without being that crazy prepper on the street corner, building the bunker.
Yeah, there's a lot of channels out there like that. And unfortunately, it's those channels have a lot of subscribers too. So people kind of buy into that. I just can't, because I'm the same way as you, but I just can't put myself in, I say some crazy stuff, but it's stuff I believe. So I just can't put myself into that position of that clickbait stuff, of the doing things just to get views and all that. If I say something outlandish, it's because I actually, I actually buy into it. But yeah, I think that is the important stuff about preparedness, because you can get into all the games and all the what ifs and all that stuff, but when it all comes down to it, it is about you, your family, your personal situation, what you're going to do. It gets awful local. Once a disaster strikes, everything gets awful local. So all that, the BS about the large scale stuff, you got to take care of yourself at home, your family, and that's the stuff that truly matters. Yeah. Speaking of that, you've got a couple videos. I was just watching your videos. I don't know if you're still doing it or if it's something you did in the past, but explain your what if series of videos that you're doing. Those are pretty cool.
So the what if series was looking back at the past events that have happened, some more recent than others. And we go through, what would we want in today's society, today's technology, today's environment, if that event happened again. So I talked about Puerto Rico. A lot of people knew that Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, but they didn't know that there was a year-long power outage to go with it. I mean, you think Florida just got hit a couple weeks back. Well, probably 99% of them have power, have running water again. And so what if we got hit with a major hurricane, we were out of power for a year? Another one was the Texas winter storm. Same deal. It was a 10-day power outage in Texas, but it was a 10-day outage on the coldest week of the year.
Completely unexpected.
The natural gas lines froze, which, yes. Where I used to live, and even the city that is relatively close to me, we run on natural gas. And so what happens when you say, okay, don't worry, even without power, we can have heat, and then the heat shuts off and it's 5 degrees outside. What's the plan for that? We talked about the gas crisis of the 1970s into the early 80s. That's something that we could look at today. Um, we're getting a lot of oil from Saudi Arabia, all these foreign nations. What happens when they say, you know what, we don't like the way you're operating, we're going to cut your supply lines? And gas jumps up overnight. We got hit with a Colonial Pipeline attack 2020, 2021, something like that. And that was only a week-long event. The gas crisis as a whole event was, 5, 6 years. And what happens when you go get fuel and you can't get to work, you can't drive, the food's not coming in because the trucks can't get fuel. So that was talked about hyperinflation as well. That was another one. Um, that was a series of videos where it wasn't, again, not talking fear porn, not trying to, oh, this is going to happen tomorrow, but just sit back and think, would I be ready if this winter we lose power? Okay, what do I need? I need a way to have heat, but I also need a backup way to have heat in case my propane tank goes down. Or what if, the fuel line shut down again? Might be for another week, might be for another year. Make sure you have ways of getting to work. Make sure you have ways of taking your family to school or whatever the case is. But it was a look at recent events that have happened, whether it be in 40 years ago or whether it be last year, and just taking my approach. This is what I would do if I was in that situation. This is what I would want, what I would need, skills, gear, items that I would need in that situation.
Yeah. Tony in the chat said history always repeats itself, and that's true. And also with these events that you're talking about, we can learn a lot from these different situations. And I think that's, it's unfortunate for the people that have to live through them, but there are things that we can gain, the knowledge that we can gain from these types of situations, and how that might affect us. Granted, out here where I am, not worried about a hurricane, but there are things that happen during a hurricane that I can, glean some information from, how people react to it, people's response when a disaster strikes. A situation like that, people have a little bit more of lead time as far as, hey, this is coming, do your thing. But there are still people that just choose to ride it out and all that stuff. So you can learn a lot about these different things. From, Puerto Rico, all those kind of third world type countries, their electrical system grids are just, we think ours is bad here. Those are horrible. And you look at what those people have to go through, and they're, probably not a whole lot of preppers in Puerto Rico because that's just life, right? That's just how they have to do it. So it's interesting. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Make sure to go check that out over at Titan Preparedness, his YouTube channel, and watch those. He also does a lot of videos on gear, testing your gear. You're really big on testing the gear, right? Actually getting out and doing stuff. You've got a lot of reviews, but you've also got a lot of videos of yourself doing with that gear. Not just like me, I've got a bunch of stuff sitting on my shelf behind me. Now, granted, I do test, so, it's not all props. But yeah, you've got quite a few of those as well. Let me see if I'm looking to see if there's anything in the chat. If I do miss anything, you'll have to point it out to me. I can bring it up. But what we're going to do today, and we kind of talked about these little disaster scenarios. I think it's interesting that as preppers, because we're going to talk a lot about a lot of large scale stuff when we're talking about prepper groups and community, and you can't do it alone and all that. I think it's interesting, though, as preppers, we tend to kind of skip a whole lot of stuff. And when we think about disaster scenarios, we always go to that Mad Max type situation, right? But the truth is, and I say this all the time, and it's almost becoming kind of cliche, but the truth is there's a whole lot below that is going to affect us before something like that happens, or the odds of something like that happening are far greater than something large scale. Now, these days, I don't know so much anymore, right? There's so much going on right now. What is your take on just like the general, when you think about these different type situations, is it, do you kind of like I do? I go through, okay, if this smaller type situation happened here, boom, and then if it gets bigger and bigger, how do you approach the whole, like, your preparedness planning in general?
Great question. I start with what has happened in my location. Right. I don't plan on moving anytime soon, so I don't need to worry about big 8.0 California earthquakes or California wildfires if they haven't happened here yet. So I start local. What has hit here in the past 10 years, 15 years, and then I start branching off from there. Right. We every year we have winter snowstorms. Every year we have hurricanes. Every year we have basically tornadoes, or at least a little microburst. So I need to plan up for those events that have happened here, that happen basically every year here, and then start going from there. If we get, everyone's talking about dropping nukes right now. If we get hit with a nuke, that is a once in a lifetime event.
Yeah,
Should I be ready
hopefully.
for it? Of course. But should I focus on these major, should I focus on this major event that has never happened and would I want to survive and, go full steam to nuclear apocalypse, but skip over the smaller stuff? So I start with the small scale stuff. I start with the things that have happened here, and then I move up from there.
Yeah. The caveat on that is that whole nuke thing right now is really in the news, really on my radar and all that. So it is one of those that has kind of moved up the chart, basically, because you just don't know. And now, granted, I mean, there's so many different things how that could play out. We just don't know. So it's not something that is all consuming. Like, that's what my focus is right now. But it is one of those that really has moved up there. The EMP factor, the fallout factor. I mean, all of those different things. It's just good to pay attention to those. But at the same time, like I said, everything becomes real local when it all goes down. If something like that did happen, and you do, say, have to seal yourself up in your basement, if you have a basement, or somewhere, for a little bit, you got to have all that small stuff, that normal, that everyday stuff that applies to all the different type of disaster situations on hand. Otherwise, it's going to be a long few weeks sitting in your basement all by yourself or whatever. So yeah. The reason I kind of brought that up was we're going to be talking about community. We're going to be talking about prepper groups and stuff like that. And I think there's differences when you're talking about, first, differences between prepper groups and just like support groups, community, friends, and all that stuff. But when you're talking about a disaster scenario, that's where I said we all jump to the Mad Max type thing. And we think about, we need this big, huge prepper group that's got, a certain amount of food stored, water stored. Everybody's got different skills, which is fantastic, but unrealistic, I think, to some extent. But there's a lot of situations in between that now and that large scale, holy crap, here we go, that group, that community, all of that stuff would be beneficial as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We always talk about the major extreme events. As we said, nuclear drops. But how many small scale events are you going to face before then? And how many? It's great if you've got this major, large mag group that you can run off to, and every event is a bug out event. You drive 200 miles to this location to meet everyone up. Chances of that happening um, are a lot less than, hey, snowstorm hits, and your neighbor has to come help you cut the tree off of your house because it's affecting the roof. It's great if you plan for a major event and the major event happens and you can go kumbaya with all your buddies. But a lot of us are local, like you said. Um, we think local, we want to be local, and the group size can expand, but it's also the further you expand, the more people you get into it. You don't know what their skill levels are. You don't know what they're good or bad at. But uh, in my opinion, unless you have to leave for whatever reason, California wildfire, for example, chances are it's going to be a local group. and it's going to be a lot of neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on prepper groups? Because me and Brian have talked about this a few times, and I think if it's possible, I think it's a good idea. I just don't think it's real possible for a lot of people, because it's kind of hard to actually get a group together, and then like you were just talking about the personalities that go into that, and getting to know somebody's not that person you thought they were, and then how do you go about removing them safely from that prepper group? So it's kind of it's that double-edged sword in preparedness. Yes, we can't go it alone, or no, we can't go it alone, but at the same time, you want to take care of OPSEC, you want to do all this stuff. What are your thoughts on prepper groups in general, and you know building up that kind of community? You can go wherever you want with just community support networks or prepper groups in general with this.
So I like to start with my buddies, my family, my friends. Um, Try to get them on board, because if I can get them on board, then I can start talking to other people. If I can't get them on board, there's no chance that I can walk up to a random stranger and, hey, you want to be a prepper? You know. So I've got buddies who are, I was best man at their wedding, they were best man at mine, and so those were the first people that we've kind of brought in. And I won't even say brought in like we're a actual established group, but every time we're together, we talk about, oh, what if this happens? Okay, well, y'all can come over here, I can come over there. This is what we've got as far as skills, as far as food, as far as seeds put back, whatever the case is, and then start building from there. Neighbors are your second person. That neighbor that lives beside you is probably going to be your first responder when it comes to any event hitting your house. Again, tornado comes by, drops a tree on your house. Hey, buddy, can I stay the night at your house or something? And even just delivering them, a meal at Christmas time, something like that, something simple. You don't have to go and spread the gospel of preparedness, but just getting to know them, at least more than just, oh yeah, that guy did live there. I think, get to know your neighbors. As far as bigger groups go, I was part of a prepper group on Facebook, and this was a local to Greenville, South Carolina group, which is about 45-minute drive from my house, and it was the most local group that I could find. So I found them on Facebook. The Facebook group was great as far as the information that was being dealt out on the Facebook page. Everyone's starting seeds at the same time. Everyone's helping out. My garden's not growing right. So I asked this group that lives in the same local area what's going on. How can they help? It was great for information. So they started meeting up at like a Denny's or something every couple weeks. Um, that's kind of when it got a little odd, because these individuals, all from different backgrounds, all from different walks of life. Some were the extreme hardcore doomsday type, and some were just, hey, I want to plant a garden, be a little bit better prepared, maybe can the food. And so you had all these different minds meshing. There was an individual who came to one of the meetings, um, basically telling us that we were wrong because we weren't going that extreme route. We were prepping for, back then it was like food shortages, early 2020. Um, he's like, no, 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 this thing's gonna wipe out. Just the fact that us meeting is putting all of us at risk. They dealt with it as far as a leadership people go. I think they uninvited him from the Facebook group, and so he couldn't no longer see our information that was there. But as far as a personal level, you're gonna have people that you're not gonna like. You're gonna have ideas that you're not gonna like, and it's safest to hold these groups like at a Denny's, like at a restaurant, where it's central to everyone. They can go in, and you're not sharing your information. Now, once you get to know the person, like, hey, Dale, you want to come over and help me build this water catchment system, or you want to help me with my garden or something like that? But that's where you really have to get to know the person, because we all know that people can put on facades, they can put on masks while they're out in public, and they come over and they go, all right, well, he lives here. This is all the gear he has, so I know if something hits, I'm coming to his house and I'm gonna rob all his stuff and take it back to my place. You have to trust the people you're around, or at least what was that saying? Trust but verify.
Yeah.
It's something I truly believe in. It's hard to know if everyone's telling the truth about their background, about their skill level, about X, Y, and Z. Um, Verify it if you can. Trust them if you have to, but always keep that thought in your mind. What if this person is just using me? Um,
Yeah.
and another thing is like that group. It was 50 plus miles away. In a real world situation, unless I could drive that 50 miles or, load up the kids and ride a bike that 50 miles, those people aren't coming to help me. Those people aren't coming to rescue me first and foremost. Like, unless you've got a big, deuce and a half or something. So keep it local, but also have people outside that local area that you can go to. I got a buddy that lives 10 miles away. I can go to his house. Okay, well, I got another guy that lives 30 miles away in case the event takes over that 10-mile radius. I can go to that 30-mile house and then start moving on from there.
Yeah. I tell you what, I know Lisa's probably listening to this driving home. She probably doesn't even know what a deuce and a half is, but I got a big enough driveway. I could fit one nice and I mean, it'd look beautiful in my driveway. Just saying, Lisa. Uh, but yeah, it brings up a lot of good points because like introducing people to preparedness, you're kind of careful about what information you give out, what you don't. You don't know somebody may be interested in it, but you don't know why they're interested or how long they're going to be interested. There's a lot of people you meet online that may be interested in the gear aspect of it. So it's almost like a habit or a hobby to them. And then you don't understand that until you get to know them a little bit, like you were talking about with these groups. Online, it's one thing, and then you meet in person and you start to figure out people's personalities. And I think that's the tough part about creating this group. I know a few people that have prepping groups, and they're adamant that they just love them. But they know the people in those groups, and they know that each person has that same sort of mindset about the disasters that they do, whether that be large scale, small, or all of the just general preparedness or whatever. The guys that I've talked to that have groups like that, pretty level headed about all of this stuff. It's not the extreme one way or the other. And especially not the people that are going to be talking crap saying if I was in a group and somebody was telling me exactly how I had to do something, I wouldn't be in that group for very long because it's like, no, I'm not playing that game. But you've got to figure that stuff out. So you've got to, know how invested somebody is in something, but are they so invested in their idea that they're not willing to kind of support the group and all that? So it's a tough situation. And then like that dude you were talking about, while you were talking about it, I was thinking, okay, what does he, and not saying that he's some sort of crazy dude that's going to, stalk you guys or anything like that, but you never know with people these days. What behind the scenes is he thinking or doing now that he kind of has a little bit of that inside information? Maybe that's just me being a little bit paranoid, but you do have to think about that stuff when it comes to these types of groups and who you're letting in and all that stuff. Lisa is in the chat. Yeah. All right. So with the groups and all of that, we talked about gauging someone's interest in that, and like I said, you've got friends and everything that you get into it. I've got some buddies. I know a few people that are around here as well that I think probably have sort of the same mindset as me. But you have your neighbors, you have these other people around you that you might not be sure about. But when you're talking about, even if it's just something that's a few weeks long or maybe a month long, but when you're talking about these larger scale type situations, you really got to take that into account because, like it or not, they may not be in your inner circle, but they're going to be around. So that is a situation you have to deal with too, right?
Correct. I always use the example: your neighbor is either going to knock on your door for a cup of sugar, or they're going to knock down your door for a cup of sugar. And us being preppers, we all have firearms. Oh, I'll defend my property. They know everything about your land. They drive by it every single day. They know when you're at work. They know everything, even if you don't know that they know. They know. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things like reach out that leaf, because if you can get them on board, now you're not sharing your resources. And I know a lot of us are like, hey, me and mine, and that's where it's going to stop. But I've got neighbors with kids. I have kids, and it's going to be tough to go, you know what, those kids can starve because mommy and daddy didn't prep right, because mommy and dad didn't buy enough food. That's on them. Hungry kids make desperate parents, and
Hmm.
your neighbors know everything about you. So it wouldn't be that hard to go, okay, well, this guy's out grilling out. We haven't had power in 3 weeks. I can sit on my property and watch every single thing that he does. And I'm going to ask, hey, man, can you spare a dime? Can you spare some food? And if he says no, hey, you know, it's game on. Um, so yeah, definitely get to know your neighbors. Don't necessarily go that extreme route. Hey, do you want to go build a bunker in my backyard? But hey, man, what would you do if you lost power for a couple of days? Do you have a generator? How much gas do you have? Oh, that's cool. And who knows? They might be a prepper and didn't want to tell you, didn't want to ask you because of the whole OPSEC COMSEC thing. And then now you got two preppers on the street. So yeah, try to convert them. Say it like it's a religion, but I mean it in a way it is, right? We're always trying to get people on board and join our little cult we got going on.
Yeah, well, the more you can get somebody at least in that sort of mindset, the better off it's going to be for you. So, think of it selfishly if you have to. I mean, I've thought about it with some of my neighbors: is how is this going to affect my situation? Because it could, and it is another one of those things where it depends on what type of situation you're talking about, because it's not always, hide from your neighbors or get ready for them to come try to take your crap or anything like that. Sometimes it is, some sorts of disasters, whether it's natural disasters or something, could involve, that neighborhood coming together and that neighborhood getting together and helping each other out and doing that stuff. Where when you get into the larger scale disasters, that's when you're starting to think about that. But it could be something as far as just securing the neighborhood. Who around in your neighborhood is going to be on board. Maybe they're not a prepper, but they are, once something goes down like that, they are going to be on board with, hey, there's a lot of crap going on out there. We've got to secure our neighborhood and secure our kids and all that. And I think that's when people would start banding together. Now you get in. You see, there's so many different ways you can go with this too, because start getting into that point and you start building those bonds, and these people aren't prepared, but you are, and and so it's you've got to feed or maybe try to help feed the people that are helping you defend that neighborhood and all that stuff, which is all a reason to try to get as many things done up front as you can, because I mean, there's just no guarantees on how this stuff all goes. So. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just one of
I
those
had a
things. It's really tough. It's a tough situation because yes, you need other people, and even if you can just get a few, a few people that are in the same mindset as you, that are going to be on your side when everything goes down. If it's large scale, or even if it's just something medium, small scale. I mean, that's going to be a massive help to you. But even if it's just that, I think you're going to be good. Now, if you are in the position where you do have a prepper group, and it's a good group, it's got good structure, that's fantastic. But most people don't have that. Most people don't have that option. There's just not. They've done things like you've done and gone to meetups, and it just hasn't worked out for one reason or another. I hear stories about like that all the time. People just get frustrated about, I've met this person, and they flaked out or they did this, and, just two different mindsets. And it's just a tough situation. But community in general is super important. So kind of, I guess, just do what you can. Try to get as many people on board. Brian and I have talked about this, where he's got a lot of buddies, military buddies. So, he's got that aspect pretty taken care of. He's got a couple buddies that are maybe don't consider themselves preppers, but are probably more prepared than most preppers. It's those types of it. He doesn't have that typical prepper group, but I guarantee you, if things went down, there would be a spot maybe that they'd meet up and get everything organized and get everything figured out. That's if he wasn't already in the middle of nowhere. Me in my situation, it's kind of tough because yes, there is. We used to have a bug out location, a plot of land that we were going to build for a bug out location. We ended up scrapping that one because it was below Colorado Springs, and that's the way that's the way the wind blows. So if this fallout and all that stuff happens, not a place that I want to be. And then also because it was so far away that we couldn't build anything. I don't have the funds to just kind of build something up and live down there. But we'd have to think in a large scale situation, we'd have to think about getting out of here because of just the fact that you do have the neighbors and stuff like that that are going to be coming to your door. We're online. Lisa's been on with me for a while now too, so people understand or know a lot more about us than the average prepper. So that is something that, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but that is something we've thought about. That if something did get to that point and that bad, we'd have people from her work. We'd have people that I talk to. We'd have just so many people. I mean, it'd be like a 911 helpline or something like that. People calling all the time saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" So we've talked about that, just kind of getting out of there. But at the same time, you can't go it alone. I mean, that's not a very feasible plan. You can't just bug out and go it alone. Now, me and Lisa together, I think as long as there was no like chaos, riots and stuff like that, or violence and all that, we'd be just fine. But in situations where that civil unrest and everything starts to break out, alone, you're not going to last very long. So sorry, I talked for like 20 minutes there, but
No, I remember one show. It was on Nat Geo Discovery, one of the two, American Blackout, and it was
yeah, it
a
was a
little,
good show.
90 minute episode about worldwide or nationwide power outage. And there was that one family. Oh, we're gonna bug out to the hills. We got everything we need. We got water. We got generator. We got food. All we're bugging out. So they bugged out to their, bug out location in the woods. And lo and behold, it was the neighbors who ended up taking over their property.
Yeah.
Again, most of us can't afford a secondary house up in the hills of wherever. Um, even there, you still have to make contact. And the first time you meet someone should not be with a gun on the hip after SHTF or whatever you want to call it. It should be, hey, I just moved in, this is a vacation home. Get to know them because that situation is going to happen a lot. Your neighbors are going to overrun your house. I had a comment on a video a couple weeks back, and it was like, what happens when 50 armed people come to your house? Well, like you said, one person's probably not going to stand alone. But if you get 40 plus neighbors all armed up, you at least stand a fighting chance. You were talking about shutting down securing the area. Yeah, if you go ahead and secure it, you make things right, and you make entry control points and all this stuff. They have avenues of approach in case someone tries to attack. But again, going back, trying to get everyone on board. That's gonna
Well,
be tough.
that goes to the deterrence factor as well, because if you've got a situation like that and you've got that stuff taken care of, they are probably that group of people maybe looking next door rather than they may be thinking, okay, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. But on the same thing right there, they may be thinking, okay, what are they protecting? So you do have to be ready one way or the other to defend that. And yeah, that's the thing. Now we're talking large scale. We're talking situations that are pretty, I don't want to say unlikely, but it'd be pretty rare for something to get to this point. These days, I'm getting less and less convinced of that as the days go on, but it would be pretty rare. But I think, what are your thoughts on say something did happen? Because it is sort of tough for us to get groups together, groups that are going to function properly and actually be beneficial to your preparedness. But say something did happen, say the nukes do start flying, stuff like that. Say the infrastructure is just, once the fallout all settles and all that stuff, the infrastructure is just hosed, the electric's out and all that. what do you think that your chances of like getting a group together sort of on the fly? Like, hey, this is what we need to do, vetting different people that get into your group. I think that may be something you're gonna, or a lot of people would have to do. I think groups would form by themselves, good and bad, but there would be a lot of kind of on the fly vetting and a lot of chaos. What are your thoughts about something like that happening in some sort of situation? How do you think that would unfold, basically?
You're right when you say it'd be chaos. It'd be absolute chaos. And again, we're going extreme. We're going, nukes dropping. So you look at, hurricane. Those that remain normally try to form groups, or 9/11, for example. Who your group is whoever you were standing beside when that plane hit. So you grab these three, four people and you say, hey, we're going this way. And that completely random strangers, you are now considered a family. You try to stay with them. You try to take care of one another. You got grandma over here, but you got the 20-year-old you work with over here. You try to stay together. It'd be absolute chaos. Extreme event, nukes dropping, be even worse. Could groups form? Yeah, absolutely. Both good and bad. You're gonna have, you know, your buddies over at your house watching the ball game, and then nukes start falling out of the sky. So now you're a group. Well, who do we invite in? Do we invite the neighbors? Do we invite, these people who my neighbors don't speak English? So how can I invite them in if I can't even understand them? Could we get on that level? Um, Chaos would be the only word.
Yeah.
But on the bad side, you're going to have anyone and everyone with a gun, which is a lot of people in America, walking around going, I'm going to take this stuff. Hey, you want to join me? Let's go take this guy's stuff. So now you've got these marauder groups, these looter groups that are going to form just out of necessity for their own survival. And they're going to start hitting houses left and right, taking what they need, taking what they want, basically, doing whatever they want. So the day of, probably not. A weekend, you stand a better chance as long as you're still living, still kicking, and saying, okay, we've all survived hunkered down in this basement of this random stranger's house. Now what? Well, little Jimmy goes and runs off to his try to find his wife and kids. Okay, well, now that leaves 5, 6 of us. Are we going to form this group, or are we going to split up from here? Well, chances of survival when splitting up are less and less. So let's stay together. Okay, well, you live out in the woods, you're a prepper, you got all this stuff. Let's go to your house. Let's see if it's hit. So groups are going to form. Vetting those people in those groups is going to be a lot more difficult, especially in the further it goes. 1 Second After was a good book that I did a review on, and an EMP drops. They're in North Carolina. They've got the interstate that runs, right close to their town. So the first week, basically everyone's trying to overrun their town. They say, hey, go up to the next town over. And this continues basically throughout the entire book. That interstate is a pathway between towns, basically. So they try to vet people. Well, you start asking vetting questions. Hey, are you a doctor? Are you a lawyer? Are you a doctor? Are you EMS? Are you a paramedic? Do you have any vet skills? Are you a farmer? People are going to start hearing those questions, and they're going to start learning. Okay, I can say these words, and now I get into your little town or your little group, and I can lie about them. But you're going to provide me with food. I'm going to go out in the woods, or I'm going to go out to the field. I know nothing about growing a garden, but I'm going to lie and tell you that I'm this best farmer in Southeast, even though I have no actual skills. Um, but you're going to feed me. I'm going to go out there with a hoe, with a shovel, dig some dirt up, and pretend like I know what I'm doing. It's going to be a lot harder to vet people. There's some simple questions, medical side, that you can ask people. And every paramedic knows what a phalange is. Well, it's your fingers for those of y'all that don't know, and I just gave you one away. So now if someone that knows a little bit of medical, they're sitting on that gate and they're saying, okay, well, do you want to come in this town? Yeah, I'm a paramedic, so I want to come in. I can provide X, Y, and Z to your community. as long as you guys feed me, as long as you guys give me resources, and they start asking basic questions that any paramedic should know, should answer, if they can't answer them, then okay, maybe you are a paramedic and you just don't know anything. So we're gonna let you pass. You're not coming into the town. You can go to the next town up, see if they've got resources. But it's going to be very difficult to vet people. And those that you end up with, whether it be neighbors, whether it be strangers, whether it be friends, you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. And you brought up a couple scenarios. You brought up 9/11 and Katrina. And I think those two are really stark as far as their differences, because you've got the best of humans with 9/11, how they just started to get stuff done, banded together. I mean, a lot of people freaking out too, but a lot of people that just went to work and started doing stuff. And not to say that didn't happen in Katrina, but in Katrina, you also had that bad element of it as well. The looters, the people, and you saw it in Florida recently, the looters and the people looking to take advantage of the situation. I think that is something that you're likely to see in a lot of these SHTF type situations. And those bad groups will form. That bad group of people will form, just like the good groups of people trying to combat those bad groups of people, the good group of people trying to rebuild and stuff. But you really don't know until you, in a situation like that, you really don't know a person until you have time to interact with them and know them. Yes, you can ask those probing questions and figure stuff off right off the bat. But a lot of the time, it's kind of a, hey, better safe than sorry type thing. You're an extra body. Your patrol, your whatever, your this or that, and then we'll deal with it later. And again, we're talking that super large scale situation, but the looting, the rioting, all that stuff, I don't think that's really that far fetched, depending on your location, where you live. Especially if you live in an urban area, that stuff it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take that large. All it would take was the power going out for 3 days, 3 or 4 days. And that stuff. I mean, shoot, they don't even need a reason these days in New York and stuff like that. In California, they do it anyway. So it wouldn't take much to do something like that. I think Brian and I were talking the other day about this. If something did happen, like we found out that Russia did launch something, launch the nukes, what do you think would the initial response be? And not by the powers that be. I don't even know that they would tell us anything. But say people found out in the country that they had 30 minutes to go. What do you think the initial, would it be utter chaos, people flipping out? Or do you think people would it be kind of a mix, I suppose? I know what I'd be doing.
I guess it would depend on where you are, where you live, where you work. You were talking about cities. If you're in a big city, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Atlanta, even, chances are you're a primary target. If they launched one, okay, one out of all of America, yeah, you might be safe. New York's probably going to be hit first, or Washington. If they start launching, their entire arsenal, it's like, now what?
Yeah. Well, because then everyone's doing it at that point.
Chaos. Yeah, chaos. You can expect streets to be completely blocked. I mean, we look at it now with, okay, simple traffic jam. A single car wrecks. You lock down, you shut down the interstate for 3-4 hours. Okay, well, you have 30 minutes to get home. You're going to get home as fast as possible, right? You want to be with your wife, you want to be with your kids before this big bomb goes off, and that's the last time you see them. Everyone's going to be doing hell 90 down the highway. There's going to be a lot of wrecks. Well, that makes a lot more traffic jams. That makes a lot more standstills in traffic. So the best bet would be hopefully shelter in place, right? They say, hey, listen, you can't leave, period. Go find a safe location and stay there. If you can. Depending on where you work, there is no safe location. Then let's say you sheltered in place, you stayed there for a day or two. Okay, South Carolina doesn't get hit. Okay, we're going to release y'all because we don't have the resources to keep you here. So you're free to go wherever you want to. let's say 12 hours later, they release you. You can expect looting, rioting, in any and every store because there's going to be opportunists. And okay, I walk by 3, 4 stores on my way home or on my drive home. I'm going to run in there and see what resources I can find, especially if it's not a direct hit, like it skips South Carolina where I live. Heck yeah, I'm going to go take my little get home bag and I'm going to fill it up with spam and whatever I can find because that's what everyone else is doing. Shootouts, major shootouts happening left and right, people robbing, looting, chaos. It's the
Yeah.
best word.
Yeah. I think I just have this feeling that if people knew initially, it'd be right off the bat, looting, rioting, all that stuff, right off the bat. Then you have the element of people that say, screw it, I'm going to die anyway, which I don't necessarily agree with because what if you don't? That's a miserable existence if you're all, if you're you're radioactive and you're surviving for even if it's just a few days in agony and stuff like that. So, but there's going to be that element as well. And then there's the element of people that really they're just almost kind of clueless. They're like, "Oh, so what does this mean?" Or they don't believe it's true, right? Because it doesn't fit into their happy little narrative that something like that's just something you see on TV. That stuff doesn't really happen. So you're going to have those people. I think it's going to be if there is I tend to think there would be because you've got the emergency alert systems, you've got all that stuff that would sound and try to get everybody, into a safe place as possible. So this isn't something that, as much as some of them might want to, this isn't something that they would hide. I think there's too many places around the United States and too many resources that it would be tough for them to cover something like that up. And I think most people would just flip out because they don't have options when it comes to that. What is the option when you live in an apartment building in the middle of New York? When you live, or some big city or something, what are your options at that point? Just basically stay inside and cross your fingers. So I think it's weird to think about because there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and then you got afterwards. You've got the fallout. If I guarantee you, it's not going to be one or two little targeted strikes or something like that. Maybe in Ukraine it might. And then what does that lead to? But if they start flying over here in the United States, we've gone large scale at that point. So it is all over the place. And then the winds blowing. I mean, this is all one big globe, right? So all that stuff is going everywhere around here. So at some point, it's going to affect everybody. It may affect some people more. Brian and I just did a little nuke map simulation on last week's show of how I would get annihilated here in Colorado. I laugh now, but if it actually happens, but I wouldn't be in ground zero for any of those blast strikes. So I would be that person. If you don't take precautions, you're going to be living a couple days or however long in misery, or ending yourself, Dr. Kevorkian yourself, basically, because it's just a lost cause. And I don't want to be that person. So I know a lot of people would be like, I just want to die. I'm going to get up on my roof and watch it. Well, if you're watching it from 150 miles away, you're going to be watching it after it's all done too. And then all of a sudden you're going to start feeling like crap. And, then you have that to deal with as well. So just interesting to think about all these, how people react, I think, is in any sort of disaster situation is one of the major things about, I mean, you've got your stuff at home, your preparedness supplies and all that, but you really do have to take that into account about how people are going to what they're going to do that create different situations and how situations evolve, because they are the big, I call it, the people are the X factor. They're the ones that decide or have influence on how a situation evolves or devolves. So it's something, that's why we always talk about bugging out into the middle of the woods, living in a suburb or an urban area, right? A lot of us online anyway live in rural areas. And I think that's why the less people, the less opportunity for all of that stuff to happen. But anyway, you got anything on that? I talked for a while.
Look at what was it, Hawaii a few years ago when everyone in the state got sent the ballistic missiles are coming. Be prepared. And so that was a huge freak out. That was a huge foobar on the government's part and whoever sent it out and accidentally sent that warning text. But for an hour, a little island like Hawaii, you get hit with a couple ICBMs. Goodbye, Hawaii. And so everyone was like, a lot of people rushed home. A lot of people started looting stores. A lot of people started shooting one another that, coworkers that they didn't like. And it was like, oh, sorry, it was all for nothing. I hit the wrong button on the computer. What if just that got sent out? Not even nukes got sent out, but whether nationwide, statewide, whatever you want to call it, another alert like that got sent out. You wake up, you're at work, and you see that alert on your phone. Well, I'm leaving. I'm going to rush home with everyone else, or I'm going to try to shelter in place, or you're white knuckling the table because here it comes. People are going to believe if you saw it on CNN, if you saw it on Fox News that, oh, Russia launched nukes. Okay, is this true? Is this not true? I mean, how much fake news is out there? And you're like, it's good. And then one lands right on top of your forehead. You're like, dang it. You
Yeah.
know, I don't even know if I would in today's environment. You're like, okay, yeah, I could see that. But like, let's say 5 years ago, okay, Russia launched nukes. Yeah, probably not believable. But nowadays, it's like we're always on edge. You never know. This is like the new.
Internet, I don't even know. My internet is being super crazy right now. And after I say this, it's probably going to be all fine. It's Murphy's Law at it again, trying to get me. But I think we are going to get out of here tonight. Get it while I can still talk. But that was a really cool conversation. We'll have to have you up back on again. We didn't even really talk about skills and all that stuff because we kind of went down this nuke rabbit hole. But very good conversation tonight. Before we get out of here, one, I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat and all that stuff. But just kind of let everyone know where they can find you again and what you're up to.
So Titan Preparedness right here on YouTube. The link after this chat, I'll toss my link in the channel and below. Titan Preparedness, we actually do bug out bag testing. We do get home bag testing. Granted, we haven't done one this year due to just being busy and a lot of medical issues. But family preparedness, we've talked about that. Upcoming, getting ready for winter this year. Upcoming videos, we got the winter video. We've got kind of like gear and gifts that you can give for the non-prepared individuals in your life that can help them be better prepared without telling them, hey, this is a prepping gift. Um, Hopefully, beginning of this coming year, 2023, we're going to be doing like a breakdown series of just prepping basics. If you started over, if you are new to prepping, doing a just beginner basic series. And then hopefully after the beginning of the year, we will be getting back with bug out bag loadouts, the bug out bag loadouts, the get home bag loadouts, and the actual testing of them. Because you can do so many loadout videos and you can watch so many loadout videos, but you have no clue how that bag actually works. Will that bag keep you alive when it's 5 degrees outside? The boots you're carrying, are they any good 5 miles into a trek? While it gets wintertime, we are going to try to do a wintertime survival from a vehicle standpoint. We planned on talking about skills tonight. Wilderness survival skills are great, but also just knowing how to survive in your car if you get stuck in a ditch, if you break down and it's 12 degrees outside and it's 12 o'clock at night, no one's coming to help you. So we've got a couple little projects. I don't know how many we'll actually get to, but future looks bright for our channel.
That's pretty interesting. My internet is going okay now, so I want to kind of touch on that a little bit before we get out of here. But that is pretty interesting because you think about a situation where you're in a car driving home or whatever. Maybe it's a snowstorm or something happens in your car and you're basically stuck there. Maybe drive over the edge of the road or something. You're driving home from the mountains and you drive over the edge of the road and nobody can see you. And you're stuck there. So what you guys are going to do is basically put yourself in a situation like that. And is it going to be like 2, 3 of you, or how's that going to work? Because that would be kind of cool. That's a sort of a realistic situation.
So I know I'm going to do it, at least in my little car. I've got a buddy with an Avalanche, so a little bit bigger vehicle that two adult-sized men can actually fit in. Because my little car is little for a reason. I don't want to be snuggling with another man. Um, but if we can use his Avalanche and he's got a day off, hey, this is what he carries. Is it good enough for two people? Right? I know what I carry. My bag is good enough for me, especially in the wintertime. But two grown men are not going to fit in my sleeping bag that I carry. And we're not going to necessarily run our car off the road, but we've got a lot of places around here, little campsites, areas that we can say, okay, we can park here for the night. No one's going to say anything to us. I can park here, set up the camera, do all the video stuff, and then just sleep outside or in the car for, till the sun comes up.
You
Maybe you
mean
have to
you mean
go ahead.
you're not gonna do like Les Stroud and start cutting the fabric off your seats and tearing your car apart and stuff like that? Come on, man.
I'll borrow my wife's minivan and see she wants to do it anyway, just to
There you
start
go.
tearing up first. Oh, but well, and that's the thing, a lot of preppers talk about wilderness survival, but how many of y'all, how many people, how many channels that talk about it can go out there if they do get their car stuck in the ditch and they've got all this stuff in their car to help them survive? Why am I going to go build a shelter in the woods and freeze my tail off while building it when I potentially could do even better in my car?
Yeah.
Just my thoughts. I want to be a little bit more comfortable. But I mean, it's an event that happens, every single year. I used to be stationed in North Dakota. How many cars ran off in ditches at the first snowfall of the year, where it's 10, 15 degrees outside, and then even later on into the year where it's -60, -70. So not only carry your gear, but also test to make sure that that gear works.
Yeah. Hey, Lisa put in the chat. She said, "I still have PTSD from driving home in that bomb cyclone we had a few years ago." Yeah, that sucker was terrible. Brandon also said in the chat that he was stuck in a ditch for 12 hours in that storm. That is insane. Now, I've thought about with my F-150. It's got the extended cab on it, and I've got the what my plan was, and I still may do this. I'm not sure, but it's a lot of room, a sleeping area. It would be me and Lisa. I don't know about the whole two dudes thing either, but I'll tell you what. When it gets cold, and you are in that situation, I kind of have a feeling that it would be a all bets are off. Kind of that. Hey, don't tell a damn person that this happened. Nobody ever finds out. But at any rate, I have an idea with the back of my truck and kind of to make something that folds over so it would sit on the seat, but I could fold it down. It would be like a 2x4, which would make a sleeping platform in there. And it'd be something I could tuck away if I had, kids in the car or somebody in the car. I've just got a bunch of junk back there anyway, prepping stuff because I don't ever have kids or anything in the car anymore. But I thought that would be kind of cool to make a sleeping platform that would be flat and it would be wide enough for both of us. And then we'd just sleep in the cab of the truck, which would be much better than pitching a tent, building a lean-to, all of that different stuff. So what are your thoughts on, I mean, are you basically just kind of thinking about just stashing out in the back seat of the car, leaning the front seat down, or what are your plans with that?
Yeah, so my back seat, I've got a hatchback. Somebody mentioned the little electric car, so mine is partially electric. Small little four-seater hatchback, and so it's got this big glass panel as the hatchback. But that is like kind of the back, the trunk area. So I can fold my seats down, my back seats down, and I can lay maybe, knees tucked in a little bit. I can basically lay flat and then have another area beside me for another person. Again, probably pretty close, which, it is what it is, especially if it was really cold outside. So I can at least lay completely flat in the back of my vehicle. Now I'm going to have to move all the junk that I have to the front seat, to the side seat, something like that. But my expedition that I used to have, I had a blow up air mattress stuffed back in there, and I could lay out the third row and scoot the second row forward. And dude, it was like a king size bed. Like it was bigger than my bed at
Yeah.
home. And I was like, all right, well, if I break down, shoot, I'm just gonna have like 5, 6 people in here with me, keep it warm. But yeah, probably just lay down if it's my vehicle. I'll lay down in it. If it's my buddy's Avalanche, we got to deal with car seats because he's got car seats back there. Okay, where are you going to put the car seats? Where are you going to put the gear? Where are you going to put?
Outside.
Because you don't want all your stuff thrown in the back or thrown outside, right? So it's like I love watching vehicle survival kits that people build, and they've got a 9-seater SUV, and 8 of the seats are taken up with junk, and it's
Hmm.
like all that stuff is cool, but unless you just plan on sitting straight up in your driver's seat, like what's the whole point? What's the whole purpose? And so like I'll carry my get home bag and like a couple little extra items for winter. What am I going to do with them? Where am I going to put them? Just mapping that one out. But luckily, I can lay down in mine. I don't know about laying down with another person, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the one positive that I see from being outside of a vehicle, one, you've got the protection from the elements and all that stuff. But when you're outside, you have that ability to have fire. So you could get a pretty comfortable situation going on. And again, it depends on what's going on. If it's that bomb cyclone like we are talking about, I mean, it just depends. But yeah, it's interesting to think about. That'll be very cool. All right. Well, my internet's being dumb again, so I think we are going to get out of here tonight. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate everyone in the chat tonight. Uh, Pretty soon, I'm getting good internet, so this is not going to be an issue anymore. Pretty soon, being in the next month or so, and then it's just going to be game on. But again, I appreciate you being on this week. We'll have to get you back on sometime in the future. Maybe if you ever do a live stream, I'll get on your channel and we can talk about the skills and all that other stuff that we were going to talk about today. But with that, everyone in the chat, appreciate y'all joining in tonight. Titan, appreciate you coming on. And make sure everyone go over to his channel, subscribe to that channel. I do have the link in the description. And he will put it in there later on too. But just go to YouTube and type in Titan Preparedness, and his channel will come right up. So, you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here or anything, Titan?
No, not really. Just thank you again for having me. Thanks for the chat. We've talked about some coffee. The guy that said that he was stuck for 12 hours, that's pretty impressive. Watching people talk about that. Thank you for having me. And
Yeah.
and thanks for the community. Just there's been a little bit of drama going on in the prepping community as of late, talking about, oh, this community is only set up to make people money. This community is only set up to advance a agenda. But from what I've seen, from who I've talked to, from all these other channels, yours included, and all these other ones that I watch, this community is great. It's slap full of knowledge. You can be a prepper that just started 2 minutes ago and get on here, type in whatever you want to find, and there is a video for you on how to begin prepping, on how to be, building that bunker in the backyard, everywhere. And this community is great.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy it. I enjoy being part of it, and I'm sure everyone else does too. But yeah, this is good, and I appreciate for you hosting.
Yeah, you know what the cool thing about the internet is that you can watch what you want to watch and don't watch what you want to watch. So if that's what you choose to watch, then yes, that's going to be what it is, because there are people out there like that. And even like what I do, yes, I'm trying to make money at this. I make no secrets about it, but I don't sell out like a lot of people do. I care about the community. I care about that, and I think there are a lot of people doing this stuff that do it the same way. So. But if that's you and that's what you think about it, then I think you're watching the wrong stuff. Personally, because I just kind of tune that. There's a couple prepper channels out there, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but I just kind of tune out that fear porn stuff, the clickbait stuff, and I'm going to stop right now because I'm going to slip and I'm going to call his channel out. So I'm just not going to do it. I think you probably I think you've done a video on it before, so I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, But at any rate, yeah, man, I appreciate you being on this week. Appreciate everyone in the chat. I know I've closed this show about 4 times now, but I think we really are leaving this time. So everyone, take care and prepare. We'll talk to you all later.